Alright guys, so I previously bought a cheap RODI system. It was a cheap Chinese knockoff, and that thing eventually was starting to die on me. Now basically just the membranes in it were all going bad, but they were going bad at such a rapid rate that I knew there was something wrong with the quality of that filter. So rather than try to diagnose everything, I figured I should just go on ahead and get this filter that I've got here, which, as the label on the outside states, this is the 6-stage universal system, which includes 2 DI canisters. And so we'll crack open the package and see everything you've got here. And as you can see, it comes in 2 boxes because this is quite a large system. So they've got this sim pack, which feels like a bag that's almost just kind of full of like ground up packing peanuts. There's like styrofoam in here. We've got a big bag of accessories. We'll go through everything that's in there in a bit. We've got our hoses, which are actually connected to the filter system here, so we'll lift that out and move this box out of the way. We'll set that down there for now, and we'll crack open the second box here, which is the dual DI canisters. Alright, so here is that, again packed in that same sim pack media, and here's a piece of tubing that is not connected, so we need to take that out. And that should be everything, so we'll push that off to the side. And what the universal system here means is that it is an RODI system, and it can treat all types of water, meaning if you have chlorine or chloramines in your water, it will treat both of those either way. And then what the universal means is everything I've got here, and if you go for the universal plus, you get basically a water meter there that tells you the pressure going into your membrane, which I have a meter here already from the old system, so I'm just going to use that. And then you get an inline TDS meter, which would be very handy, but for the time being I'd rather save that money and I'll just buy it later when I have the extra cash, because this filter was already $230, so adding in the extra money for that was just not necessary right now. And then you can get the Water Saver Plus, which is that same system that is mentioned over here, but they add a second membrane so that the water that flushes out of the first membrane actually gets filtered again through the second membrane, and you get clean water out of both, and then it just puts out super dirty water out of the drain line. So now let's open this bag up and see all the accessories we have in here, and then we'll go into the main filters after that. Alright, so here's everything that was in that package. And first of all, we have a big instruction sheet on how to set up the system here, which I basically know those steps, but we'll go through those later anyways. And on the back, they show you some of your options for your upgrades. Or if you bought the systems that have these built in, then of course these would already be built in. And then going down to the part that matters the most, here is all of the accessories that come in the pack. So starting down here, I'm not exactly sure what these are, but I believe these are adapter fittings for using this connector right here. So maybe that's actually, the manual might actually be useful. I believe that these would be adapter fittings for screwing into here, because what this fitting does is it screws onto your sink faucet, and then your water can still come out there through this valve. You can either open or close that, and that controls this. And then you can take your tap water out of the side here to feed your filter as well. So that's one of your included fittings. Another way to supply clean water to the filter, or not clean water, but the supply water, is through this hose adapter. This screws onto a standard garden hose size connector. So you can either just screw this onto your garden hose faucet, your laundry room faucet, and if you do that you want to make sure it's the cold side for your washing machine. Or you could add a splitter where the cold side of your washing machine hooks up, or where your garden hose hooks up, and then your hose just presses in there. And then here's the last clean water supply option as far as I can see, and I believe this goes like under your bathroom sink, where your hoses connect to those little valves that are under your sink. You take that hose off, screw this on, screw the hose back on this side, and then you plug the water supply into there. And I seem to have glanced over one more connection option here. This is also for supplying water to your system. Now this is if you have a copper pipe. What you can do is you basically just puncture this onto the copper, and then it will feed water out the side here. So you, there's a little spike right there you see, and you put this on your copper pipe, you clamp it down, and that will puncture a hole in the copper, and then that will allow water to be supplied through there. So when you have an RODI system, you will have wastewater as well, because when the filter purifies, it makes super pure water, but then it also produces super dirty water, which is where all of the impurities go. It goes to one side, basically. And so to drain those down, you can either just stick that hose in a drain, or if you're going for a more permanent install, like under a sink, for instance, you might want to actually hook that drain into a pipe. So this is for that. If you wanted to install this around the drain pipe to your sink, basically, you just drill the hole into the side of that black pipe, the S pipe that goes underneath your sink. You drill a hole in there, seat this on the side, put this little pad right here in the middle, and then clamp it down, and then all of your bad wastewater goes in here and will flow right down that black drain pipe. And then the other included accessories here are a wrench for taking off the filter housings when you need to change out your filters. This is not so much used for putting them back on, because they should basically just be kind of hand tight, but sometimes they are really a pain to get off, so you might use this to, you know, crank them off. You also get a pack of chlorine test strips here, so that's pretty nice. So you can test whether your water uses chlorine or chloramines to purify the water. Basically, I'd assume that if you test this and you get no chlorine, then they probably use chloramines. And so I didn't pay for these or anything, they just came with the water filter here. And then I've also got a float valve here. This is for basically like if you're using a water storage barrel, like say you want to filter out a big 50-gallon barrel of water, you would mount this in the side, and once the barrel's full, it closes off like that, and it seals up in there, and it just blocks the water from flowing through anymore. Now the only thing I don't like about this valve is it's not adjustable, which means that you can't adjust the angle that the ball is at. So if you put this here, but you want it to stop filling when the water reaches this level, you'd have to just mount the thing lower, because you can't actually adjust the angle of this arm. But since this was included, I'm not going to complain too much about it. And then the last piece we've got here is this ball valve. I'm pretty sure that you would want to use this on your supply line, which means the water that's coming into the filter, so that when you need to change your filters, you can just shut it off real simple and change your filters without worrying about the water spewing out everywhere. But I guess you could technically use this anywhere in the series that you wanted to. Now this ball valve is kind of large. It's really well built. This knob is a lot smoother than the knobs that came with my cheap Chinese water filter unit, so that's pretty nice about it. And I'm not sure if all of these accessories are what you will get or not, because I've actually watched a couple other videos of this filter, and everybody seems to have gotten different things. So I guess it's kind of whatever freebies they feel like sending out at the time. But I'd be fairly certain that you will at least get, you know, the filter wrench and all of the fittings for hooking up the drain and the clean water supply. But I'm not sure if you're going to get like the chlorine test strips and a ball valve with it. I'm not sure. But anyways, now let's take a look at the filter and see what comes with that. Alright, so here's the full 6-stage RODI system, just laid out how it goes. So the red hose supplies your tap water into the system, and it's red because it's not the pure water that you would signify with blue, but it's also not the nasty, you know, toxic water. It's not literally toxic, but it's not the nasty water that would come out of the black hose, so they use red. I've seen some companies just use white to indicate this. That's what my Chinese one came with. So that goes into your first filter here, which is a 1-micron sediment filter, which filters out all of the large, like, little black specks you can see floating in your water. If you pour a glass of tap water and it's got, like, stuff floating in it, that's what the sediment filter catches. And then you've got 2 1-micron universal carbon blocks here, and these are for filtering out your chlorine or your chloramines, depending on what your city uses to filter their tap water. And so that just filters that out to protect the RODI membrane, or the RO membrane up there. And so you've got 2 of these just kind of for redundancy and to make sure they catch everything. And then from there the water flows up to the top through this red hose, which comes in here, into this little manifold here. This is an auto shutoff. We'll get to that in a second. And it flows through there, comes into your RO membrane here, and it's filtered along the way through reverse osmosis, and it comes out these 2 tubes back here, which are blue and black, as you can see. The black one goes through this flow meter, which is 550, I believe it's milliliters per hour, is how much water this lets out. I'm sure I'm wrong about that measurement. Maybe it's milliliters per minute. but this lets out a certain amount of wastewater, and what that does along the way is it's flushing out all of those minerals that have gathered inside of the filter membrane. It's making sure those don't stay in there, otherwise you'll clog your filter within like a day, you know. And then obviously it's no good to pay $40 for a filter every single day. So that just flushes out all of those minerals basically through this, and that's just to make sure that all of the water doesn't flow out. So that will go down your drain. Then the clean water comes out this blue hose here, goes through the same little box back here, which again we'll get to in a second, and flows out this blue hose. Now from there, if you just wanted RO water, say for like drinking, because you should not drink DI water. I haven't researched this 100%, but there's people that believe it's fine, and there's people who believe it's harmful, so I would just say, just drink RO water, it's plenty fine. Because RO water still has a few essential minerals in it, and it's not super stripped of everything, whereas the DI water has nothing in it. It's deionized, it has no ions, and so that can actually harm your body apparently by stripping ions from your body. So it's best to just drink the water coming out of this blue hose if you actually want to drink water from the system. And so if you had this hooked up to, say, a ball valve or that float valve over there, whenever your water's full and this cuts off, the pressure builds up in this blue hose, comes back to this box here, and the box goes, whoa, this line's super pressurized. And what that does is it senses that pressure and it shuts off the red line here, so it stops the water flowing into this membrane. And what that does is even if there's no water coming out of that blue line, water will still flow through this black line unless the supply is cut off. So it cuts that supply so you're not constantly wasting water out of that black waste line there. So that's basically what that's for. And there is an upgrade available where you can put basically a valve that just goes across here to let you flush the system, and that's a good idea for the first minute or so, as well as the last minute of water production, just to flush out the membrane real good and make sure there's not too much stuff stuck in there. But I already have that kit, so I'm going to add that in myself, and I will show that to you guys once I set that up. But from there, the water is going to come out of this blue hose, and we'll get into the DI stage here. Now, all this is some deionization resin packed into these tubes here. And what's nice about these is they are refillable, which means if you go on to the Bulk Reef Supply website, or plenty of other websites, but I would stick with them because they're one of the few who are highly trusted around all different kinds of circles, whether it be horticulture or, you know, like saltwater reef tank people, they trust this brand as well, hence Bulk Reef Supply. And so they're a very trusted brand, and I would stick with them. But you can fill up these canisters for $12 a canister, as opposed to having to buy a whole new canister to go in there, which is almost $25 a piece. But what these actually do is basically this blue hose is going to kind of plug in right there like that, and it's going to send your water into this first canister, and it's going to flow through, go out the back, come into the second filter here, and flow out there. And what the deionization does is it removes that last little tiny bit of impurities in your water. So your water coming out of here might be, say, 6 ppm, and that's actually pretty high. If you're putting in super high, super dirty water, then you're going to get like 6 ppm out of here. So anywhere between 1 and 6 ppm will be coming out of there. And this removes that last little tiny bit of water. And you will have pure 0 ppm water here. Now, what the dual canisters do here is not so much for treating it any faster or any better, it's kind of for redundancy. Now, in a way, I guess, yes, it will last longer because there's 2 of them, but what it's mostly for is this one's going to wear out almost entirely first, and then this one will start wearing. This one will be almost brand new before this one ever wears out. So this thing will wear out, and you'll see it, this changes color when they get old, or when they get full of impurities, basically. I believe they turn like a brownish color. So you'll see this one be completely brown, and then the bottom of this will just start to creep up brown, and you'll go, okay, I need to change that. So you change this one, you put brand new resin, you take this one off, because this one will be slightly used at that point, move that over to here, and put the brand new right on the end. So you've always got that brand new resin right on the end to catch any impurities that happen to flow through. So like I said before, if you did want to use this for drinking water, as well as for supplying a fish tank, or a reef tank, or your hydroponic setup, then you would want to add some sort of a T right here so you can drink the RO that comes out of here, while having DI for like your plants or your fish, because that DI can potentially be bad for you, and I'm not sure about that, but I would just play it safe and not drink it. So that's all I'm going to cover in this video. If you guys would like to see the setup of this filter, then please click through to part 2, because this video is going to run long as it is, and I just don't want to extend it too far for those who don't want to actually see the setup. So if you would like to see the setup, then please do click the link. I'll put it right here on the screen. But that's about it for this video. So if you enjoyed it, please do click the like button, as that does help me out. If you want to see more of these videos, then please do click subscribe. And if you'd like to help me keep my channel running, then please do at least take a look at the Patreon page in the description, because that's going to be an essential part of keeping my channel running here in the upcoming months. So anyways, I would like to thank you guys for watching, and I will see you later.